Today, we're going to dive into a really profound shift in how we see the world. It's a move away from a story of controlling nature to one of participating with it. And, as you'll see, this one little change in thinking affects pretty much everything, from the food we eat to the health of our own bodies.
So, let's start with two farms that tell two completely different stories. First, I want you to picture the Mississippi Delta. Way back in 1948, you've got these endless cotton fields, and farmers are absolutely celebrating this new miracle chemical, DDT. I mean, pests are dropping dead, profits are through the roof, it's a miracle cure. Now let's jump way forward in time and across the world to Zimbabwe in 2020. Here, we're looking at a landscape that was basically turning to dust, and now it's this lush, thriving ecosystem. The miracle here? It wasn't a chemical at all. It was a completely different way of seeing the land.
So, this sets up a huge question, right? It's the one we're really going to unpack today. How can these two polar opposite stories, a miracle cure that failed and a miracle recovery that worked, how can they possibly tell us where science itself is heading?
To get it, we've got to start with the old way of thinking. Let's call it the logic of control. This is where we started to view the natural world as, well, basically as a machine.
And you can totally see the appeal of this logic. It's so simple and clean. Step 1, you identify a problem, a pest, like the boll weevil. Step 2, you find a single cause. Step 3, you apply a targeted chemical solution. And boom, step 4, problem solved. Or maybe not. This step-by-step mechanical approach was just incredibly seductive. It felt like we had it all figured out.
And for a while, it really did seem like a massive success. Cotton yields were up, pests were gone, but then something really strange and deeply unsettling started to happen. The birds, eagles, ospreys, pelicans, they just started disappearing. Okay, so this chart right here, this shows us the invisible problem they couldn't see at first. See that little bar on the left? That's the amount of DDT in the insects. It's tiny, but watch what happens as you go up the food chain. The small birds eat the insects, and then raptors, like the bald eagle, eat the small birds. Look at how that concentration just skyrockets. The DDT didn't just vanish, it piled up at every step, delivering a highly toxic, concentrated dose to the predators at the very top. And that, right there, is the huge, glaring blind spot of that old way of thinking. By focusing all our energy on killing just one thing, we completely ignored the entire web of life it was connected to. And in doing so, we nearly broke the whole system. But here's the really cool part. While that story of control was leading to total disaster, a completely different way of thinking was starting to take root. And this brings us to the journey of an ecologist named Allan Savory, who, funnily enough, started his career with that exact same control mindset. You know, back in the 1960s, Savory was a really confident scientist, arguing that to save the grasslands, you had to get rid of the elephants. But then came the turning point. He looked at the land where they had removed the animals, and he saw something that just blew his mind. The land was getting worse. It was turning to desert. This spectacular failure forced him to throw out the old rulebook and develop a new one based on mimicking nature's own patterns. And you can just feel the weight of that realization in his own words. He tried to dominate, to control, and every single time it failed. It was only when he finally stopped fighting the system that he found the solution. So this led him to develop something called holistic management. And you can see, it's not about fixing one little problem, it's about seeing the whole thing, the cattle, the soil, the water, even the local community, as one big, connected system. Instead of fighting nature, it's about copying its patterns, like how wild herds bunch together, move constantly, and stomp and fertilize the ground. It's a total shift from commanding nature to, well, to dancing with it.
Now, this is where things get really fascinating. This way of thinking, seeing the world as an interconnected ecosystem, it isn't just for grasslands in Africa. What if we took that exact same lens and applied it to the ecosystem inside the human body? Well, that's precisely what a doctor named Zach Bush did. And his central discovery is so simple, yet so powerful. The health of our bodies is a direct reflection of the health of our planet. You just can't separate the two.
Let's trace the connection on this chart. It starts with industrial agriculture, using chemicals like glyphosate that kill all the life in the soil. That dead soil grows food that then damages our gut microbiome, which is like the foundation of our entire immune system. This leads to chronic inflammation, which we now know is the root cause of so many of our modern diseases. You see, it's a straight line from the farm to the pharmacy.
So this completely flipped the script for Dr. Bush. You see, the old question was all about, okay, what drug matches this specific diagnosis? The new regenerative question is totally different. It's, what connections, what relationships have been broken in this person's life, in their diet, their environment, their gut, and how can we help restore them?
And this really just brings the whole idea home. Healing our bodies and healing our planet, they are not two different projects. They are literally two sides of the same coin. The path to our own personal health runs directly through healthy soil and vibrant ecosystems.
Now, what's so amazing here is that the journeys of Savory and Bush, they aren't isolated stories. They are actually part of a much, much bigger shift that's happening across all kinds of scientific fields. It's like a quiet revolution.
So, for example, take complexity science. It studies systems that organize themselves without any central command. Just think about a flock of birds turning in the sky in perfect unison. I mean, it's incredible, right? There's no lead bird shouting orders. The beautiful pattern just emerges from a few simple rules that each individual bird follows. This shows us that you can't control a complex system like a machine. You can only influence the conditions and then watch the patterns emerge.
And then there's network theory, which basically tells us that the relationships are everything. It's not just about the individual things, it's all about how they're connected. A great example is the sea otter. It's a keystone species not because there are tons of them, but because of its critical position in the food web. It eats sea urchins, which would otherwise mow down the kelp forests. You remove that one little connection, and the whole network can collapse.
And this relational worldview, believe it or not, goes all the way down to our own DNA. The field of epigenetics is showing us that our genes are not some static blueprint for life, not at all. Instead, they're in a constant, dynamic conversation with our environment. The food we eat, the stress we feel, all these things act like signals that can literally switch genes on or off, shaping our health in real time.
Okay, so after all that, where does this leave us? Well, it all points toward a future where science is much less about control and much more about partnership. A future that is, in a word, regenerative.
So what does this new regenerative science actually look like? Well, for one, it's integrative, because real-world problems don't care about the neat little boxes we draw between biology and economics. It's relational, because it gets that nothing exists in a vacuum. It's also humble. It acknowledges that we don't know everything and that our actions have consequences we can't always predict. And ultimately, its goal is purely regenerative, to heal and restore the very systems we depend on instead of just using them up.
Now, it's really important to get this straight. This is not about throwing out science and going back to some pre-scientific fantasy. Not at all. This is about science growing up. It's the move from just being clever, clever enough to invent a chemical that kills a bug, to being truly wise, having the wisdom to participate in a living world without destroying it. It's finally realizing the world is a whole lot more like a complex garden than a simple machine.
Which leaves us right here with one last massive question. With technologies like AI and genetic engineering, we now wield powers that are, frankly, godlike. The choice we face, the choice that will define our future, is whether we will use those powers with the old, broken logic of control or with a new, wiser mindset of partnership and care.